He says that when reality hits and you can't understand it, it always leads to denial. The neutral man reports that he has not realized this reality. The black flame he was so proud of could not destroy the heroes. The inscription explains why the sword god on the hero's side pierces the chest and heart. The image depicts a young man stabbing another character seated on a throne with a sword. The young man says he doesn't understand and asks how this is possible. He says that he was always a cut above the rest, entered the Demon King's military academy, became its best student, and graduated with honors. It is said that the Demon King Standards is a theory introduced by the first Demon King who founded the Demon Kingdom. The guy reports that he read it cover to cover more often than anyone else and followed it from A to Z. Based on what is written in the standard, the young man reports that he built a tower and kidnapped the princess. The woman reports that she also developed the heroes who came to rescue her. Their anger and sorrow were the best meal possible for me, the Demon King, but killing them prematurely will bring trouble. He says that he was kind enough to let them grow so he could eat them, and explains that the stronger the hero, the tastier he is. The boy explains that he followed the standards of a demon king better than anyone else, and that conquering this world was only a matter of time. He explains that he absorbed the bottomless sorrow and rage of heroes and many ordinary citizens, becoming the strongest demon king. The young man asks why he was the one who ultimately fell. He says, "How so?" and repeats the question, "How?" The guy says that demon kings always say the same thing. The man expresses surprise. The young man says that the man brings this outcome upon himself and does not understand why he always looks as if he does not believe what is happening. He says it's nonsense. The guy says that's nonsense and explains that they're always kidnapping the most famous princesses and leaving clues for them to come and stop him because of the things they've done. The young man laughs and says that if he were in his interlocutor's place, he would immediately kill the king, and then explains that then the kingdom would plunge into chaos. He says that if he kidnapped the king, it would cause internal rifts due to the desire of some people to take the throne, but then their anger would not be directed at him. This goes against the standards and will not lead to the guy's development as a demon king. The young man reports that if they didn't come to the tower, he sent a certain number of monsters to the villages to train them. The man says he can't even express his gratitude. The man reports that if they came, it was even easier. He informs that the first floor is filled with a bunch of weak monsters and explains that everyone can train at their own pace to develop their skills. The guy says that heroes can't die halfway, and to gather more energy, he was extremely careful. He says that's what the standards taught him. The young man delivers a powerful blow with his sword, piercing the man in the chest and knocking him out of his chair. He lets out a sharp cry, his face distorted with pain and rage. The guy says that when the tower became boring, all that was left was to kill the demon king, then a new king would appear at the tower. The guy says that this is the perfect training ground for heroes, and asks if that's right, guys. The guy says that thanks to the demon king, they were all able to become stronger, and thanks him, calling him the best demon king, and also says that he is more of a godfather than a demon king. The boys thank the demon king for all his efforts and say the tower was quite nice. The young man thanks them for the best training ground. He says he is the godfather and is surprised that his tower was just a training ground for them. The guy says he was quite strong and that a lot of heroes died this time. He says that there's nothing wrong with that since it's what made him famous. The guy says it's goodbye now, Demon King. The man says the hero dared to do this to him and calls it absurd. The man says that to humiliate him like that means, what are the standards of the Demon King? The man says that he can't just die and tries to say something but stops at the words, I. The young man says he is the Demon King. He makes a loud cry. The guy says he can't afford to die here. The guy says that magic can't be used in this place, otherwise monsters will appear. The man explains that the monsters appear because of magic and warns that if anyone uses magic, everyone will die. The image contains no text or speech from the characters, only a ceiling with bloodstains. Drops of blood lie on the floor, and several people stand nearby. The sounds of footsteps and falls accompany the scene. The young man says that those who look down on him. He speaks. The guy says they are paying. The young man tells her not to touch the head because it's his horns. He strikes her with a sword, which emits a bright purple energy. He says, "A." The guy says that even if he has to give up his last strength. The guy says, "Stop," then says, "Yes, no." The scene depicts a powerful explosion or release of purple energy with a bright light in the center and sound effects. There are no lines or characters. The young man shouts that it's all over and orders them to run. The scene depicts a powerful explosion of purple light emanating from the figure of On, who is at the center of the action. The explosion spreads downward, engulfing numerous figures standing in a formation. The image shows a man surrounded by purple flames and smoke, creating the effect of a skull. The guy says that the standards were wrong, and if only he knew that because of them, the heroes didn't value the demon kings. The man's eyes are filled with bright energy. He says that he shouldn't have. If the young man were given another chance, he says he would send the standards to hell and feed them to the orcs. They say the guy. The young man screams in surprise and amazement. The boy expresses bewilderment. The man orders Deus to come forward immediately. He is surprised and says that is his name. The guy stands there and expresses bewilderment. He says he doesn't understand what's going on. The guy says he's alive. The guy says we need to hurry. The guy says it's impossible for this place. A young man asks Deus why such a brilliant mind is behaving like this on graduation day. Deus thanks the director. The guy notices a red badge and says that it is given to everyone who graduates from the Demon King Military Academy and that it is the symbol of the Demon King. The guy says that it's coming out. He says that this is his graduation, which took place 15 years ago. They announce that all graduates are expected to appear on stage. The guy says he doesn't know why he went back in time, but he sees it as his chance. It is reported that the graduates, who will soon become Demon Kings, will now take the oath. The man addresses the young man, Deus, as a valedictorian and asks him to read the oath as the representative of his year. He explains that demon kings must build a tower in their designated world, kidnap a prince or princess, become villains, and cause disasters, leaving evidence of their actions. He explains that demon kings must develop heroes and absorb as much energy as possible, as well as spread weak monsters. The guy says that this is the demon king's standard. The guy says he's seen it so many times that he's memorized every word and has done his best to follow those rules. The guy says that the trash that became a mockery for the heroes led to his death. The woman says she wants her to recite it. The young man announces that he must again swear in front of everyone to follow someone until the end of his days. He gritted his teeth. The guy asks if it's a guy now and asks to read the Demon King standard. The image shows a close-up of a clenched jaw with teeth bared, accompanied by sound effects that convey tension or anger. There are no spoken lines or dialogue. The young man says he refuses. A boy with pink hair and elven ears says he doesn't understand what's going on. A boy with black hair and red eyes remains silent and expresses confusion. A man with blue skin and a scythe says the situation is unclear. The guy says he can't swear to do something so stupid. He says it's a pity about the Demon King standard. The guy shouts that everything's trash. The woman says the Demon King's standard is trash. The man with the mask and the man with the flame on his head remain silent. The man shouts that this is the king's standard. The man says that this is the king's standard. A caption appears in the night sky above the castle, containing an exclamation expressing strong surprise. At that moment, the top graduate of the Demon King's military school became the first from the end. A man hits a surface with his fist with force. Archduke Arcane Blorimo reports that the boy is taking action. He explains that he could have been executed on the spot for daring to speak so ill of the Demon King's standards. The speaker states that, given exemplary behavior and exceptional talent, they will give one last chance. The young man tells him to renounce his reckless statement here and now and apologize to the entire Demon Kingdom, otherwise he warns that he will be sent to Aaron. The woman says the name, Arain, is questionable and asks if it's in that dimension where demon kings die in droves. The man in the red mask explains that this is essentially a death sentence. The woman says an apology won't be enough. The man says his offense deserves death and wonders how he dared to call standards garbage, and also questions why anyone would give a criminal a second chance. He says that Arain knows very well what the worst dimension is, where many demon kings have already died. The guy says send. The man reacts with an exclamation. The young man says that there he will prove that the Demon King's standards are rubbish. Then comes a cry of surprise. They report that he is truly hopeless, and they order Deus to go to Arain immediately. The guy reveals that he will not receive any of the privileges usually given to the best demon kings, and will not receive any demons as an escort. The young man reports that until the takeover is completed, he is forbidden from returning to the demon realm. He says that this was to be expected after the commotion that was caused, and reports that he was sent here again after all. A man falls into the world where the heroes who killed me live. The guy reveals that even before returning to time, he personally chose Arain, thinking that the strongest like him should conquer the world of the highest difficulty. The young man reports that this arrogance cost him his life and that too many people here take advantage of the weaknesses in standards. A powerful beam of light hits the top of the mountain, causing an explosion and a burst of smoke. On the northern continent, in the Urpes Mountains, he lands on the snow, spreading his wings. The guy says he won't let it happen again, and this time he will be the one to exploit weaknesses. A caption about the hero's standards appears. The young man looks ahead intently. The guy says he's shaving. Gordon Derrick unbuttons his shirt. Gordon Derrick says it's wonderful. The text states that Gordon Derrick is the top graduate of Demon Academy. The text states that the Demon King Academy trains Demon Kings, and the Demon Academy trains those who will serve them. According to the rules of the demon realm, the best demon serves the best demon king. The white-haired demon tells Gordon that he's lucky to be the top of his class, and that he'll serve this year's top demon king, Mr. An. Gordon laughs. The green-skinned, sharp-toothed demon says that if only he'd studied harder. The guy says all demon kings are great guys. The man reports that although not as much as the young man, the man says that a child prodigy is born from the demonic dragon lineage once every millennium who will forever leave his mark on the history of the demon realm, and graduating in the same year as him is an incredible blessing. He says that with it they can conquer any dimension. At the bottom right, it says that this is a great statue of the great demon king and his lieutenant. And I too will find myself on the pages of history. That's right, sir, he says. The young man refuses. The guy tells you that there's nothing in this world that money can't buy, and explains that if you have money, you can get anything. The man explains that money is power, and says that without money, you're nothing. He says this is the Demon King's standard. The girl screams that it is trash. The guy is in the Urgus Mountains on the northern continent. He reports that according to the rules of the Demon Kingdom, the best demon serves the best demon king. The man says that, and asks why. The young man says he was told no one would accompany him, and yet one demon was sent. The guy says he can't believe it happened. He says he's glad to see Gordon. The guy asks why the guy did that. The guy responds by asking how exactly the guy understands the word, that. The young man says that standards, how could one say something like that in front of everyone, and of all possible places, it was Arain, now he will die too. He tells her to calm down, otherwise she might pull out all her hair, but the man says that his hair isn't the main problem right now. The guy asks if Gordon has always been like this, and says that in the past he was confident and collected. The guy says it will be difficult, but they will be together and will cope. The guy is breathing heavily, leaning on his knees, with 2 suitcases lying nearby. The young man asks for forgiveness for his shameful self-presentation, and says that since this is how it happened, he will fulfill his duty. The guy replies that it's fine. The first rule of the Demon King standards requires that the Demon King build a tower. However, it must not be hidden or built in exceptionally harsh conditions. The heroes will be able to find her only in this way. He explains that this is a dangerous place, surrounded by huge mountains, and it will be difficult for people to find it and come here, and powerful monsters are also lurking everywhere. He explains that it is impossible to build a tower here, so they need to move. The guy says he's going to build it here. The man with horns expresses surprise. The sign, Tower Seed, appears. A man sticks a red seed into the ground. The man explains that the seed must be planted and infused with the Demon King's blood for the tower to grow. The young man says that standards are about going against standards, and asks if the other person even casts aside the pride of a Demon King. The man replies that he never swore to follow them. He says he can understand his disgust, and explains that being a demon makes it difficult to go against what is ingrained in the subconscious. The guy says that unless he died or had a near-death experience, he was like that himself. A young man clenches his fist, from which blood spurts. He tells Gordon to listen carefully and informs him that the Demon King's standards are complete garbage, especially here in Arin. The guy silently looks up, tensely clenching his teeth. Snow falls against the backdrop of the mountains, and a grinding or cracking sound can be heard. The scene depicts a powerful explosion or energetic release of red light with the effect of a bright glow and flying particles, accompanied by a loud sound. The young man says that Arain is teeming with heroes, and there are too many of them. The tower identifies the user, informs them that their race is the Black Flame Demon Dragon Tribe, and names them Deas. It is reported that identification is complete and the tower is being called. The guy reveals that after destroying countless towers, people realize that it operates by certain rules, so the heroes use the Demon King's standards against them, and that's why Demon Kings keep dying here. The young man explains that the rulebook no longer works here, so much so that it can be renamed Hero Standards. The young man explains that he doesn't understand what hero standards are. Against a snowy landscape, a man and he stand in front of a huge, multi-tiered tower with red and black vertical elements. The guy says he eventually summoned the tower here. The young man announces that he will not return again. The inscription states that the action takes place on the first floor of the tower. The man and he are in a large hall. The guy says that a normal tower would have an intricate structure or floors filled with monsters, but there is nothing like that here, and explains that this tower is a straightforward fit for a demon king who has no privileges. The caption states that the action takes place in a young man's tower on the 5th floor in the demon king's throne room. The man and the young man walk along a red carpet toward the throne on which the demon king sits. The young man says that every floor is completely empty. He says that he has already built the tower, so there is nothing he can do to change it. It is reported that the second rule of the Demon King standards requires the Demon King to kidnap a prince or princess, preferably the one closest to the throne. The guy says that this will bring more demonic energy. He asks the Demon King to allow him to give advice, to which the king replies that he is listening. It is reported that the kingdom closest to the Urgus Mountains is called Corzin. A young man asks to kidnap the princess, who is the closest heir to the throne, and explains that he must absorb the kingdom's rage and their sadness in order to become stronger as quickly as possible. The man says he knows the other person will most likely refuse, but he suggests doing so. He says that's what they'll do. The man asks what. The guy says he already has a princess in mind. The man explains that the girl will guard the tower, as the Demon King's residence must not be left unattended. The girl says she'll help too. The man says that, thank God, he's still the best Demon King, and maybe he was just nervous at graduation. He says that everything can still be saved, and now everything will begin. The man asks who exactly they want to bring. The young man explains that he plans to enter through the window. He says, well, the guy says that we are talking about a princess from the farthest country from the tower, in the very south of the continent, the princess of the kingdom of Hilderan. The young man announces that he has come to pick up the girl and explains that she must come with him or face consequences. The girl says she can't leave and asks for time to think. The girl reports that this is the most inconspicuous of all, the 13th princess. He says that he has come for the princess. The guy says that this is completely against the standards. The young man says that he is the young man, the demon who came for her. The girl asks who he is. He says that he is the demon king who has come to kidnap. The girl asks if they are sure they can handle her. The guy expresses surprise. The young man says that for her, demon kings are some kind of joke and calls the question strange, then says that he is, of course, a demon king. The girl says that in that case, she will allow herself to be taken away. The man expresses surprise. He says that for some reason the girl is strangely calm and asks if she's up to something. The girl explains that she always assumed something like this could happen to her because of her status as a princess. The guy says that if you hope to lower his guard with this approach, then you shouldn't count on it, and he is also in an extreme situation, so he will not allow himself to be deceived. The girl says that she really isn't up to anything, and explains that it's impossible to set a trap without knowing in advance that the Demon King will come for her today. The young man says that this is indeed the case, but at the same time explains that he does not understand where the feeling of discomfort comes from. The girl says that in this case, they go. The manga's title appears, and it's announced that the authors are Midnight Studio, Yoon Sung-woon and Miri. The sound of wind is heard. The setting is revealed, the Urgus Mountains, the Tower of... A guy is carrying a girl in his arms. The man says that they are back. The young man asks to give her a corner on the 4th floor, and the man asks if it's a dungeon. The young man explains that she went with him without resistance, so he wants to show leniency. The girl says hello. He tells the Demon King that he has something to tell him. The man responds with a question. The action is reported to take place on the 4th floor of the tower guy. The girl notices that the floor here is hard and cold, and realizes that she has indeed been kidnapped. The girl reports that there is nothing in the room, no pillows or other objects, no blankets, no servants, no beautiful gardens. Everything is so different from his kingdom. The girl says, it's not that bad. The young man says that this is an invitation from the Tower of Beasts. He announces that it's a welcoming party for the new Demon King. He says he doesn't consider it a welcoming party, but rather a clumsy attempt to confuse the newcomer and assert himself at his expense. The Demon Kings themselves are too proud to ally with anyone, but the unprecedented situation in Eren forces them to overcome their pride and work together. The guy says that he used to ignore them, considering them weak-willed, but this time it's worth at least trying to get in touch. Above the image of the tower, the name Tower of Beasts is stated. Draxon reveals that his name is Draxon and that he is the Beast King of Demons. The text below confirms that he is the Beast King of Demons Draxon. The young man says he has ruled this place for 70 years. The demonic beast asks if he is the new Demon King and states that he has heard of his unconventional path, but finds it unimpressive. The guy says that he got into a fight and that he thought so, that it was not worth wasting time on it, and then tells him to mind his own business. The large creature reports that Archduke Arcane said to keep an eye on the boy once he gets here, and laughs that the boy doesn't know anything. The demon reports that he's talking about a noisy old vampire. The young man says that it seems like throwing him into Arcane wasn't enough. The guy says that he dared to speak about the Archduke in such a way, and that he clearly has plenty of courage. The sound of impact accompanies the fall of an object to the floor. He says, "Here, lick it," and then he will turn a blind eye to the insolence. The boy tells the Beast Demon King that he doesn't know why he's here. The Beast Demon King says he does, and explains that it's because the boy spoke disrespectfully of the sacred rules of the Demon Kings. The young man says that according to these rules, Demon Kings cannot kill each other. The inscription states that, however, the man smashes the ground beneath him with a powerful kick, causing an explosion and a shower of rocks around him. He stands at the center of the destruction, surrounded by an energy field, while a hostile man falls before him. The guy says he's not going to follow this point. The guy in the form of a wolf with red eyes says in amazement, "What kind of aura is this?" The wolf reports that Archduke Arcane has ordered that he be monitored to ensure that he successfully kidnaps the princess, and warns that if he does not report the mission's completion within a month, he will lose his authority. The young man says he was wondering what the man in the black suit would say, and the man says he has already kidnapped the princess. He says it should be consistent with itself. The image shows the Tower of Guy against the backdrop of snow-capped mountains and falling snow. The young man reports that the other man has demonstrated his power brilliantly. The man replies that it's nonsense, but now the enemy will definitely be unable to do anything to him. He says they need to prepare and asks Gordon to check on the princess. He tells Gordon he needs to find out how to use the princess to his advantage. The sound of knocking on the window. The guy says that the situation is problematic, and if other demon kings take the same position, the situation will become even more unpleasant. The young man says that the consequences of insulting sacred rules are much more serious than he expected, but even if he were given another chance, he would do the same thing. He says it's better to die than to bow his head to garbage. The guy says he won't repeat the same mistakes again and will rebuild his foundation from scratch this time. He explains that since he kidnapped a princess of low status, he'll only get a couple hundred points of demonic energy at most, but it will still be safer. The guy notices that he has 13,219 points and says that he doesn't understand where he got so many. A notification appears about receiving a video message from the Tower of Beasts. The young man expresses surprise. The demon offers the new Demon King his congratulations and explains that even though their first meeting did not go well, he must acknowledge the new king's accomplishments as the elder. He reports that the success achieved in the arena has not been a walk in the park and says that he is genuinely impressed, asking whether the breach of standards was just a cover. The guy says something is wrong. A man tells a young man that they have problems on the 4th floor. The young man reacts to this. The image contains no text or characters, only flowers and butterflies. He says, "What?" On the 4th floor of the tower, a young man undergoes the process of naturalization. He stands among flowers and butterflies against a backdrop of trees, rocks, and a blue sky. The girl says he's here. The young man says she created her own ecosystem in the tower. He reveals that he was definitely going after the 13th princess. He explains that only someone who has mastered the 4 elements is capable of such a feat, and that there is only one such being on the continent. The guy tells her she's not the 13th princess. The girl explains that she thought so because he was mistaken for Elena, and she's capable of such a thing. The young man says that Hernan Hilderin says that her name is Hernan Hilderin, and she is the first princess of the Hilderin kingdom. The Demon King is reported to have captured the first princess. The name of the kingdom, Hilderin, is given. The king says who dared to steal his precious one, and orders to immediately gather the strongest heroes and all the troops of the kingdom. The knight announces that they must take the foolish king's head and demands the return of his princess. The girl says that's why she asked if you could handle me. He says he heard about a genius elemental mage full of mana who couldn't help but detect this energy, and asks how he was led. The girl reveals that she can hide her mana with the help of a ring that is a royal family heirloom. The woman asks if she was able to answer the question, and if the man now wants to send her on her way. The guy remains silent. The young man says that he will be laughed at if he sends her back, and no kingdom will fear a coward, so it will be difficult for him to gather demonic energy. He says that he will have to go to the end. The system reports that anger directed at the demon king, the boy Deus, has been detected, and the available amount of demonic energy points is 19,521. The boy expresses surprise. The young man reports that he must have already been identified and says that nothing has changed. The girl says she is still his hostage. The inscription gives the name of the kingdom of Hildaran. The king tells us to kill the stupid demon king and bring back his princess. A man says it is not yet known which demon is responsible for the kidnapping, while another man explains that patrols have already been dispatched and asks for patience. The king is shouting for them to hurry up and figure out the situation because the princess has been kidnapped and they are not even taking any action. The man reports that something is wrong here. The king says that the demon king from the Tower of Lust recently kidnapped the prince of another country. The man reports that he incurred the wrath of too many people and was killed by the heroes. The man explains that despite this telling example, another demon king kidnapped their princess and asks if that seems strange. The guy with long hair, the man with black hair, and the man with blonde hair say, "Ah." The hand grips the edge of the surface, fingers trembling. The sounds of trembling intensify. The king announces that this means there is a new king. A man reports finding traces of teleportation magic. He explains that they are located in the north and the presumed source is in the Urgus Mountains. The king reports that it is in the Urgus Mountains. Above the image of the mountains and the tower, it is stated that these are the Urgus Mountains, and the tower is. The guy tells the guy that Hildaran's army will be arriving here soon. The guy says he doesn't think it will be too hard for him to handle. The young man says he is not going to kill. He says that everything will be fine and informs that the kingdom of Hildaran cannot get here. The guy reports that the Urgest Mountains are located at the northernmost point of the continent, while the kingdom of Hildaran is at the southernmost point, and it will not work for each country on the way to allow a foreign army to pass through their territory. The young man says that no sane state would agree to this, and they will have to hire a hero from the guild. He informs them that they have no choice, and orders them to contact the Heroes Guild. The image shows a tall tower against a backdrop of snow-capped mountains and trees, with a caption at the top stating the name, Guild of Heroes. The boy reports that the princess of the Hildaran kingdom has been kidnapped and calls anyone who would do such a thing a mad demon. The man explains that their destination is Ergust and suggests that it must be some new demon king. The man with the red beard says there are as many terrifying monsters there as there is darkness. The man with the mustache says he has no intention of playing the hero and dying. The guy explains who would even go there and how much suffering King Hildaran will endure. The young man says that no one in the Heroes Guild would agree to this, since they only care about money and don't want to go to such a dangerous place, so he built his base here. He says that this is completely against the rules and wonders if he foresaw this. He reports that he seems quite knowledgeable about the world of Arain. The guy says it's like he's been here before. The young man reports that they are more concerned with their own benefit, so they are very demanding in choosing tasks. It is reported that it will take time to form a suitable group, as well as to get here. He reports that no matter what, there will not be enough energy to fight the heroes. The guy says he knows this fear, and that it's too good. The young man tells Gordon to contact Draxon and says he plans to sell demonic energy in exchange for human money. He tells Gordon that he understands. The guy shouts that. He says that the very energy, the currency coveted by all, allows one to transcend the limits of one's species and unlock the tower's potential, as well as summon monsters. He announces that they want to exchange it for human currency. The guy says he can't stop the heroes with the amount of energy he has, but if he uses the money, he might be able to do something, and he's sure Draxon will pay a decent amount. Horton's Way is shown near the fortified town near the Urgus Mountains. Two guards are discussing something between themselves. Two guards demand they stop and ask who's coming. The man replies that he's a mercenary. One of the guards points out that the madman won't go to Mount Urgust alone and begins to express suspicion. The knight announces the sound of the bell, showing the ring on his finger. The knight and the other soldier are surprised. One guard offers another to split something in half, and the second asks if he doesn't believe him. The young man says that now. He states that he can't explore the city alone. The text explains that the action takes place at the headquarters of the Scarlet Hawk Mercenary Guild. The guy tells the captain that maybe they should leave this place, and the guy replies that it's so nice here. The man says that soldiers deal with monsters, and they collect trophies from their battles, and asks what could be better. The man says that a demon king has founded a tower in Mount Ergust and explains that these demon kings always build towers in places difficult for heroes to reach. The boy says it's all a lie. The man says the boy doesn't know these demon kings. The guy says he heard that he even kidnapped the princess of Hilderon. The man says he hasn't seen demon kings traveling to another part of the continent to kidnap a noblewoman. The man reports that the Heroes Guild has rejected the rescue request and asks where they will have to go after that. The boy listens. A man says that the princess is a precious heir to the family and calls it a show, while another man explains that it is just a trick to get more money. The man says that they themselves know how greedy they are for money and confirms that this is indeed the case. The young man says it's now clear what's going on. The man reacts with fear. The man screams that he is scared and asks who else is here. He announces that everyone is well informed and ideal for the role of guide, then tells one person to stay and the rest to clear out. The guy with the sword says that another guy got in here and won't get out alive. A man makes a thumping sound. A man makes a thumping sound. A man makes a thumping sound. The guy delivers a series of powerful blows, throwing several opponents in different directions. The man shouts, "Young man, you are here," and raises his club to hit him from top to bottom. A man delivers a powerful punch to his opponent's head. He thrusts his hand into the wall, destroying it, his eyes shining brightly. A man reacts to something in horror, expressing extreme shock. Three men jump over a railing at the same time, holding crossbows in their hands. The guy delivers a powerful punch, knocking several chairs and a table out of his hands and throwing them into the air. The man panics, grabs his head, and screams that there's a monster in front of him. The guy looks ahead with a smirk. The sounds of blows and screams, accompanied by harsh breathing, can be heard. A man and a woman stand with their backs to the scene. The guy says they're fighting again. The man says they're not tired of it. A young man stands in the center of the room, with fallen people and broken furniture lying around him. He says he will spare him if they answer his questions. The man asks for mercy. The guy asks where the slave market is. The guy says there shouldn't be anyone in this place except the two of them, and explains that if anyone shows up, it will be very bad. The young man says he understands this too and is prepared for any consequences. The man says there are only human slaves here, and he asks if they are to his taste. The guy asks if there's a rarer item here. The man holds a bag of gold in his hands in surprise. The man says that there is, of course, and invites him to come in. The young man says that people want money. Demons want demonic energy, and it makes no difference. The man says he doesn't understand how anyone can make such a face, seeing how he treated his subordinates. The sound of footsteps on the stairs. The man says that they are coming here. He silently follows him. The guy reports that the Demon King intends to use human money to buy slaves representatives of other races captured by humans. The man confirms this. The man says that elves, known for their conscientiousness, would be ideal. The young man reveals that he is using the prisoner as a spy to wreak havoc on the hero's ranks. The man explains this by pointing to the prisoner's cage. The man says he believed Hilderon's character would agree to this. The guy says that, of course, he will save the princess and bring the head of the Demon King. He says he is acting in the name of justice. The man says he's using the prisoner as a spy to wreak havoc on the heroes. The guy stands nearby and listens. Elves are known for always carrying out their tasks conscientiously, which is only to the young man's advantage. The man asks what kind of slave they're looking for. He says he's come to buy an elf slave and that the man will pay for him. The man below expresses surprise. The guy asks if there are any objections. The man replies that of course not, and that goes without saying. A man says he needs to make sure of something and asks to leave the room. Another man says the elf might go berserk. The man says it's okay, if something happens he'll pay for the damage, then expresses dissatisfaction. The young man reports that the door has opened. The man in the cage remains silent. He says that such a proud elf has been reduced to a feeble slave. The clicking sound frightens the elf. The guy asks, confirming that he feels demonic energy, and says that the demon cannot have business with the elf. The guy says he wants to give people a chance to take revenge. The guy says the offer is tempting, but he doesn't trust demons any more than he trusts people. The young man says that he is different, and if you are faithful to him for 50 years, he will guarantee security and freedom. He says that half a century is not so long for elves and that it is much better than being humiliated by people. The guy says he's a demon, and his kind wanted to destroy the world tree that the elves worship. The man says that along with the world it supports, the man says that he cannot trust. The elf says it's strange for a demon to seek help from an elf, and above all, the young man says it hits a nerve. He says that it is good and suggests to do so. The boy swears on the great standard of the Demon King that he will fulfill his promise and not touch the world tree. The man says that for the Demon Kings, their standard is the same as the world tree for them. The guy says that in exchange, he wants him to swear allegiance to him on the world tree for the next 50 years. The man with green hair says that since things have gone this far, Grenada of the Maple tribe says that she will swear allegiance as soon as she sees the Demon King that the young man sent to him. He says that he is the Demon King. The guy says he doesn't understand what's going on. The guy laughs and says that the Demon King shouldn't come here because they get weaker the further they are from their tower, and it's not profitable for them to go buy a slave themselves. The guy says that if he really is the Demon King, he swears allegiance for the next 100 years. The caption states that the action takes place on the 5th floor of the tower. The man in the cloak explains that he came here to meet the boy. The boy says he's been waiting for this moment and is ready to talk. The man in the chair says he has important news that could change the course of events. The young man announces that it's a 100-year contract, and no one forced his tongue. The green-haired man exclaims that the young man is indeed the Demon King. The guy with green hair says it's a scam. He reports that the 3rd floor has literally bare walls, and the 4th floor is nature, and asks what kind of tower it is that doesn't have a single monster. The guy says that at this rate he won't last even a year, the heroes will tear him to shreds, and he will never work in such a place. The guy says they've already signed a contract. The man expresses great surprise. The guy says that this pressure comes from pure demonic power and that he really is the Demon King. The young man says that while the tower may be completely worthless, none of the monsters of Mount Urgest are attacking it. The man explains that they are all disaster levels. The boy says they don't risk dealing with them, or rather, with the Demon King, and explains that the Demon King will remain theirs no matter what, and perhaps he will actually get a chance for revenge. The man swears by the name of the Great World Tree that from now on his loyalty lies with the king. The man says that since the Demon King has come to him personally, he will surely provide him with an important role, and he will take revenge by being part of his evil plan. He says that first you need to cook him something to eat. The man expresses bewilderment. The guy says he was supposed to be part of something very important. Fire and water say they can help and make some vegetable bread, and a man with long hair and an apron looks at them questioningly. The girl and the man are simultaneously busy chopping food. On the 5th floor of the tower, a young man is in the dining area. He says there's nothing in this world that money can't buy, and explains that money is power, and power is everything. The girl explains that if a person has money, they can get anything they want. The man says that money gives power and freedom. The guy with green hair tells the guy that this woman is from the kingdom of Hilderan. The girl says that this is Hernan Hilderan. The green-haired man says they're completely crazy, kidnapping the crown princess herself, and explains that there's literally nothing in this tower, so he asks how they're going to stop the heroes once they get here. The black-haired man remains silent. The young man says he bought it for this purpose and orders him to sit and eat for now. The man with green hair expresses bewilderment. He says the girl is a good cook. The girl says she helped too. The man asks what's going on here. The boy says he wants to fight the heroes here. The man says no, if the heroes go that far, they're finished, because that would mean they've crossed Mount Urgest. The young man announces that he will disorganize the human world for him. The man asks if he wants him to become a spy. The young man confirms that he does, but not before. He says he needs to test his skills and suggests an attack. The green-haired man says he thinks he can defeat the Demon King in his tower. The guy says that he only uses one hand and doesn't use a drop of demonic energy, and also says that if he wins, he will reduce his lifespan to 50 years. The guy says that it would be better if the interlocutor kept his word, and explains that he will use everything he is capable of against him and that he has a head. Explosions, or impacts accompanied by sounds, occur on the grass field. The young man delivers a powerful blow that shatters the ground and sends rocks and leaves flying into the air. He says that despite being in chains for a long time, his movements are quite good, and asks if he absorbed the mana of the 4th floor or enhanced his physical abilities, noting that this is a fighting style suitable for an elf. The guy says you only have yourself to blame for choosing the wrong opponent in the wrong place. The top right corner depicts golden, glowing vines entwining an armored leg. The bottom right corner depicts a young man expressing intense surprise. The guy says that his interlocutor has a lot of open places and is now going to take his 50 years back. The young man says it could work, but he says he hopes the other person hasn't forgotten who he's dealing with. The man reacts with surprise. The guy says not to worry and says that he is not going to use demonic energy. The guy asks to wait. The sound of an explosion is heard over a snowy mountainous area with a tall tower. Horton's Way is the headquarters of the Scarlet Hawk Mercenary Guild. The man says he is honored to meet them again. A young man says he'd like to hire a teen for a year. The man replies that's fine and asks what the budget is. Several people comment on his ample funds, and he's making advances to the man who's been ravaging them, suggesting that they find another job. He says it's a deposit. The boy tells the captain that they will follow him for the rest of their lives, explaining that loyalty is what makes them mercenaries, and the other boy says it doesn't matter that the captain beat them. The captain replies, "Thank you," and thinks they need to assemble a new squad. The boy says he needs someone to join the squad and relay orders on his behalf. The man confirms this and agrees to fulfill the request. The boy tries to stop the captain, saying that their squad doesn't accept outsiders. Granda says his name is Granda. The guy says they can't afford to lose another fighter. The man explains that if one of them dies, their chances of survival will drop dramatically, and the guy with the bandage on his head says they have to stick together and not panic. A boy with blue hair and a boy with a bandage on his forehead are crying and announcing that they can't fight anymore. A man in a hat and a bald man with a bandage on his head explain that they can't fight either. A guy with blue hair is talking to a man with green hair. The man with green hair is standing next to a man with a cane. The man with a cane is standing next to a man with long hair and a trench coat. The man with a headband is standing next to a tall, muscular man in a tank top. The young man explains that, although they may look mediocre, they are mercenaries working near a guest. He explains that there are no other such seasoned guys anywhere, and that they are easy to handle. It is reported that the only hero who can answer King Hilderan's call at this time of year is Hilderan Cargill, who defeated the Demon King of Lust. A man informs the mercenaries of the Scarlet Hawk Guild that this is his first assignment. He says to study Hilman Cargill. That's exactly what the guy says. The message, "Tower Guy," appears. They say that now that they have passed the question of the hero to Granada, the young man says it's his turn to become stronger. It's reported that demonic energy points can be used to strengthen the tower or the Demon King himself. The only way for him, who has sold all his points, to become stronger is to find a spiritual flower. It's said to be a mana crystal that germinates after absorbing natural mana, granting a massive boost in power upon use. This phenomenon is said to occur in the Urgus Mountains, home to harsh mana storms and powerful monsters. Nature is virtually untouched by humanity, resulting in the spirit flowers absorbing the mana of nature for many years. It is reported that in this way their energy became even purer, and the spirit flower found here will become a real treasure. The guy says it's not as effective for demons as storing demonic energy, but it's better than nothing. He says he's going in search of a spiritual flower. Gordon Dyrick explains that setting out on a journey without preparation is like looking for a needle in a haystack, and that the monsters are no different from animals. They'll attack at any opportunity. He claims he can easily deal with them. The young man reports that finding the spiritual flower will be truly difficult. He says it's only possible without a superior mana detector. He and the man hear a knock on the door and express bewilderment. A girl with slime on her head says she's not busy. The guy says, A man with long hair and earrings looks at him in surprise. A man and a woman are walking together against the backdrop of a large building. The woman is joyful and raises her hands, making a joyful sound. Two small, funny creatures are flying in front of them. The woman says that she is a little, or maybe not a little, bored and very excited, and the young man says that he will keep his promise and offers to let her decorate the fourth floor to her taste. He says it's possible if she can find the spirit flower. He tells her she's already done it and wonders how far the princess wants to go, then explains that the very fact that she wants to transform the Demon King's tower sounds crazy. The girl says that she didn't think she would be able to leave the tower and says that she got in successfully. The girl notices something and expresses bewilderment. The guy says to hold on tight. The girl makes a sound. The girl says she is not ready and screams. The girl reports that she is in pain. The girl says she didn't notice before because on the day of the abduction, the young man says that the world is so vast. The woman reports that she repeated herself every day, engaging in magical training, studying the laws of governance, training, and then training again. She explains that she thought she would live this way until her death. The girl says that the Demon King, did you know that the only person who flew over the Urgus Mountains is now her? He says that now it is him. He also says that he doesn't care and that something is required of the princess. The woman says they'll be together for a long time and suggests they switch to first names. Hernan says his name is Hernan. The man remains silent. The guy says he thinks the other guy is forgetting himself and asks if he wants to move to the underground dungeon. The man says he may have let her get too comfortable. The girl apologizes. The guy explains that he needs to use his spirits to find the spirit flower, to which the man replies. The young man says, "Come back safe and sound." The guy says that it will most likely take some time, but they will definitely find the flower faster than him and Gordon. He says he found it, the girl exclaims in amazement. The image has no text or character speech, but shows a glowing blue flower against an orange sky. Several orcs are moving forward, making noises. One of them reports that they are slightly ahead. The guy explains that the monsters are the descendants of demons who left the demon realm, and if they still have any pride left, they must obey the demon king's command. The man warns them not to touch the spiritual flower and to simply leave this place. The man says that the demon's word is not to be listened to, and at the same time he says, "No." The man says that if you don't like it, you should die. The young man laughs and says that Gordon was right. He says that expecting animals to be intelligent was very stupid, and it's better to just burn them to hell. The monster screams to kill, to protect its own, to kill and to eat. The guy concentrates energy in his hand, causing a powerful explosion of light and darkness. A powerful explosion with a purple glow occurs, accompanied by screams of pain and increasing intensity of sound effects. The young man says he can't afford to lose because then he'll die. Several men scream in pain and fear, their faces distorted with agony. Two orcs shout that they should attack the weakest first. A girl with a fiery flame behind her reacts. He warns them not to attack the weak, after which the girl agrees. The guy is concentrating on preparing a magical attack, concentrating a flaming purple ball of energy in his hand. A young man stands with his wings outstretched next to a girl. A powerful explosion and a whirlwind of dark energy occurs around them. The girl is silent. The girl reports that the orc infantry can defeat even an ogre if they work together, but they are unable to get close to them. He says this is the situation. The text speaks of the demon king's power. The sound of wind can be heard against a winter landscape of mountains and snow, where a man and a girl stand amidst the destruction. The guy says the man is very pure. The girl explains that it's hyacinth, a spiritual flower with the water ice attribute. The young man says that if he finds another flower, he can take it for himself. The girl replies that she will try. The young man explains that people can only be revived by being given a carrot. It is reported that unfortunately they were never able to find another spiritual flower, although Hernan tried to the point of exhaustion. The image shows the Tower of He, located in the snow-capped mountains. The guy reports that the crown princess of Hildarin, Hernan Hildarin, initially seemed to him to be a kidnapping mistake. The young man says she might be useful. He says he just received a message from Granada. The man asks if that's true. He speaks quickly. The guy reports that the hero Hilan Cargill, along with 32 other heroes, left the capital of the kingdom of Hildarin and set out on a journey, but not directly to the Argest Mountains. The group is going to follow the standard hero path, form a team, and grow in strength by fulfilling the requests of villagers. Along the way, they will become stronger. The young man reports that he has prepared several plans for their trip and asks to read them carefully. He says he rejects everything. The man exclaims in shock. The guy says that this time they won't send any monsters or hinder their path in any way. The man exclaims that the young man says that half measures will only harden the heroes and orders Granada to join the hero's journey along with the mercenaries, help them, and gain their trust. He says they went against the rules this time, but they won't be able to stop the heroes with the current tower. A man with long hair says this. He says there's no need to worry. He'll definitely strengthen the tower. The guy says it's with the help of the dwarves. The man panics, saying that a human and a high elf weren't enough, and now they want to drag a dwarf in as well, and warns that if anyone sees such a mixed race in the tower, they'll be laughed at for nothing. The young man reports that his power is awakening and is beginning to manifest in his hands, surrounded by purple energy. He says, KH. The guy says that he didn't say that they would stop them with the efforts of the dwarves, or rather, that they would need their magical devices, and suggests thinking for a second. The young man explains that the heroes are accustomed to the Demon King's standards and open the door to the first floor, expecting weak monsters, but he asks what will happen if they are met with dozens of guns. He says there are dozens of guns on the first floor, and the heroes definitely won't be ready for that. The guy says it's very far from standard. The young man says the throne is empty and no one is sitting on it. He says this place is intended for the king. A man shouts that a kidnapping has occurred to the left and asks if another kidnapping has occurred. An inscription appears stating that this is the underground city of the dwarves, Wolfner. A man makes sounds accompanying the forging process. Above the image, it states that this is the dwarven blacksmith Roger Friedrich, the best. Below, it states that he is now next in line to be kidnapped by the vile demon king. Two men are talking to each other, while a third man remains silent. The action is said to take place in Wolfner, a city of dwarves. The man says that before the regression he fought with countless gnomes, but in their city he is for the first time. He says he came to order a weapon, but doesn't know where to go, and asks where to find the most outstanding blacksmith in his city. The man says that for a human he is doing quite well in business, and says that he heard that dwarves love money no less than heroes, and then confirms that he was not mistaken. The man tells you to enter the inner city, where you can see a huge hole. He explains that when you board the elevator, your ID will be checked and you'll be taken to the correct floor, as it's a two-stage security system to identify violators. The sound of stomping is heard from the top right. A guy makes a quick jump upwards, heading towards a bright light above. The man is instructed to go to the lowest floor, to the farthest room. He heads to the indicated location. A young man looks towards the source of the gunshot sounds. It is reported that the best blacksmith in the city can be found there. He raises his hand, surrounded by bright light and energy, creating a powerful explosion. The man stands with his back to the scene, watching it all unfold. A sign appears with the name Roger Friedrich. The man strikes, causing a bright flash and sparks. The man reports that the metalworking skill is so skillful that it seems as if the mana itself is dancing, and asks if he is really the best blacksmith. The guy says that if we manage to kidnap him quietly, a powerful hammer blow occurs, accompanied by a bright flash and an explosion of fire. The boy is amazed and reacts to the sudden appearance of a fireball directed at him. The young man says that he felt this tiny bit of demonic energy, and could it really be this dwarf? He delivers a powerful blow with his sword, causing a bright flash of fire and sparks. The guy says he's a hero. Roger Friedrich reveals that he is a hero and a blacksmith who has the power of heroes hidden within him, and tells the demon that he dare not set foot on the lands of the dwarves, threatening that he will not leave this city alive. The guy says that these are majestic speeches for such a weak dwarf. The young man reveals that he is not a demon, but the demon king. The man makes sounds of pain and falls, dropping his hammer. He strikes with a hammer, causing sparks and a sound of impact. Two men in armor apologize to Roger for the intrusion and ask what all the noise was about. There is no speech or text on stage. Three armored warriors are seen standing with their backs to a large furnace or cauldron from which steam rises. They report that Roger has disappeared, they have an intruder who has kidnapped Roger, and they order all exits to be blocked. The guy tells them to thoroughly search the complex and explains that they couldn't have gone far. A young man threatens to kill them if they make a sound. A man with a mustache and glasses says the demon king forgot something there and asks them not to say he came for their princess. The young man explains that he's not interested in the princess. The man with the mustache screams that he's a liar. He says he heard that the dwarven blacksmiths dig personal underground passages in case of emergencies and asks to be led to them. The man remains silent, thinking that the demon king probably came here because of the princess, and scolds himself for leading a quiet life until now, afraid to fight the demon king. The boy wonders why this happened to him. Then a message appears, stating that the dwarf hero Roger is marked as weak. The guy says that it seems that the interlocutor does not intend to talk, and suggests that if he kidnaps the princess and lets the interlocutor go, the guy says he wants to know what his interlocutor is up to. The man says that the selfish hero sold the princess to save his own skin and points to the girl, saying that she is there. The young man explains that if such a rumor spreads, how will the hero appear in the eyes of the other dwarves, and laughs. The man screams that he can't stand it and curses the vile and evil creature. He says that everyone already knows that he is very weak, and if such a rumor spreads, then they will definitely believe it, and he will be tortured for the rest of his days. A young man offers a man a choice between sacrificing the princess or going with him voluntarily. The man says he'll sacrifice the princess, of course, but doesn't want to be tortured. The young man says that if they help him, he will guarantee his safety and swear by the Demon King's standards. The man reacts with surprise. The man states that the Demon King's standard is practically a shrine that all Demon Kings worship, and he will never break the oath he made on it. The man says that in that case, the man says he will lead the Demon King into an underground passage. He asks what's wrong with the man's face and says it irritates him. Roger's workshop is missing. Roger's status is missing. The girl says Roger. Louise Werf says she doesn't understand where someone went without making her weapon. The girl screams at him to shut up and says that he is also a hero, and also explains that it is impossible for a hero to be kidnapped. The dwarf reports that the hero is also a blacksmith, so he is not so good in combat. The guy tells him to go and find the kidnapper and then bring him to him immediately. The two men agree. The young man says that if they don't find him, he'll rip everyone's heads off. The man replies that he understands, Your Highness. The image reveals Roger's secret passage. A man and another man are seen climbing a narrow, illuminated passage. He watches a man who is breathing heavily and trying to get up. The guy says he'll have to look at the man's disgusting ass for a long time. The man says there's nothing he can do, the passage is too narrow, and asks him to be patient for a little while, as they're almost there. The guy tells him to move faster, and the man agrees. The guy is breathing heavily, leaning on the ground. A young man stands next to him and looks at the illuminated bridge leading to a massive gate in the rock. The man says that his work is finished and he showed the underground passage. The Demon King must act on his own from now on, and he leaves. He says it's nonsense. The man responds by saying that he swore an oath on the Demon King's standard and guaranteed his safety if he helped. The guy says he doesn't care about that piece of trash. The man in the bird costume yells that he doesn't understand what kind of Demon King this is. The young man says he doesn't know what to do with this man. The man on the ground screams in fear and says he should have simply sacrificed the princess. The guy says he's very useful, he has no equal in metallurgy, and he can forge any weapon anyone wants. He asks if the hero is ready to work for him, the Demon King. The man says you can trust him and use him however you want, laughing. He says he could even be a spy, explaining that survival is paramount to him. The boy says that if he swears allegiance to him, he will show mercy. The man thanks him and praises the great Demon King. The man says that the demon is mistaken if he thinks that he will obey him, and that he will not become his spy, and as soon as he gets out of here, the demon will be finished, while he says that he will gather a pursuit squad. The man says he will regret letting him go for the rest of his life and warns the Demon King to get ready, then laughs. The man says that the spirits of fire, water, air, and earth are the four main elements that make up the world. The young man says they are on the 4th floor of the tower. The man in the long coat says they should be careful and keep a close eye on what's going on. The girl stands silently nearby. He speaks quietly. The man reports that the Demon King did indeed bring a dwarf, and that he is also a dwarf hero. The man says he has a report and asks if they brought the gnome. The guy says he'll report it later. The young man says that he most likely didn't come to save the girl, although she asks if he came to save her. The man remains silent. He says he didn't say that and explains that it's true because the man is alive. The man asks why he's here, says he told him to let him go, and that he clearly said to show mercy, and then asks how he ended up here. The guy says he knocked the man out and brought him here, explaining that it was a pretty obvious move considering he didn't know what to expect from the man. The man laughs, saying ha 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 and ha ha. The man laughs loudly. The young man says he can't believe he met such people and laughs. The man and the girl stand silently nearby. He says that the interlocutor is so glad to become his subordinate. The man says that, of course, he is very happy. The guy says the guy has a great attitude and gives him the first task. The guy asks what the task is. The young man says to install a large number of guns on the 1st floor to destroy the heroes. The image states that Urgest is a stronghold for the heroes' preparations for the campaign. The guy reports that among those preparing for the expedition, there is a rumor about a new Demon King who wields black flame, so the heroes are stocking up on fireproof equipment. The man reports that rumors are circulating that the Demon King isn't sending out his demonic beasts because he's afraid. The man explains that it seems they're determined to kill him. He informs them that on the hero's path they will not receive any military glory or wealth, and will eventually lose interest and stop developing. The guy says it's just a matter of time and there are no problems. He orders them to continue monitoring. The man replies that he understands. He weakens heroes without unleashing monsters on them, and a Demon King is an excellent judge of human nature. They ask if there were kings like him before. The guy says he's glad he's not his enemy. The young man says there is one condition, not to use mana stones, and explains that it doesn't matter how exactly the 1st floor is remodeled, the main thing is to follow this rule. The man says that the trap won't work on the heroes without mana stones. He explains that they need to figure out how to make it work. The man says, but the guy says that heroes are loved by this dimension and can sense any energy perfectly, explaining that if you set traps with mana stones, they will detect them before they activate. The man, in a panic, says that after all. The young man says he was sure he had brought the best blacksmith, but it seems he was mistaken and will have to find someone else. The man says that there is actually a way. He says that we should have started with this and asks what kind of. The man says that he once invented an artifact that hides traces of mana and explains that it takes 3 years to create, but there is just one in the workshop. The guy asks if the other guy is trying to escape. The man replies, no, he's serious. The man says he will believe it, but expresses doubt. He asks what they put around his neck. The young man explains that it's an artifact capable of separating the head from the body, activated by snapping the fingers. The man responds by saying, "Ah." He explains that it's a mask that hides his face, and if it's removed, he'll consider it an escape. The man panics and says he won't take it off under any circumstances. The guy visited several kingdoms, buying up supplies and mana materials. The preparations took about a month, and the young man kept everything he bought in his spatial pocket. Then, it's reported that they've returned to Wolfner. A man in a cloak is standing on a cliff, and another man with a wounded arm is leaning against a rock. A tree shatters into pieces next to a man in armor. The girl screams that a month and a half has passed and they still haven't found him, calls them worthless idiots, and asks how much longer she has to wait. The girl says that the blacksmiths have dug too many tunnels and each one needs to be checked, and the man explains that most likely the intruder and Roger have already left. The girl says that of course they left, and only a fool would stay here. After all, he was kidnapped. The girl gives them exactly 2 weeks to find the kidnapper and warns that if they don't find him, they'll have to say goodbye to their lives. The man promises he'll find them. The girl gives the order to fill in all the tunnels dug by the blacksmiths. The men reply that they will do it immediately. The girl makes a sound that expresses tiredness or relief. The girl says that this was supposed to be her weapon and reveals that Roger forged it before the kidnapping. The girl asks Roger to stay alive and says that he has no right to die until he finishes her weapon. A man shouts, trying to get a girl's attention. The girl responds to his shout. The girl says she can't afford to make a mistake because she must protect everyone. She explains that if she fails, everyone will die. The man reports that the face mask has been activated. The girl says that this is one of his secret tunnels, which only he knew about, and asks if it is him. The man announces that the face-concealing mask is activated, and the princess speaks, asking her a question. The princess answers hesitantly. The woman laughs and asks what happened, then says that he, the bastard, is really back. He says that he hid because he didn't want to finish his weapon, and clarifies that this is the whole reason, Roger. The man says it's a misunderstanding. The guy says there's no misunderstanding, and that he understood everything correctly, and asks how dare they insult the princess. The man makes a sound. The guy says that from now on, the man will be his slave and will forge weapons for him for the rest of his days. The girl says she'll punish him for running away first. The man asks for mercy. A young man delivers a powerful blow, causing an explosion and the destruction of a wall. A girl with fire energy in her hand screams, asking who he is. The sound of a step. He tells Roger to go get the necessary equipment, and Roger says he's already running. It's noted that the face mask is activated. The girl asks who this man is and why he is helping a pathetic dwarf. The guy says he's the owner of a poor blacksmith who was oppressed by a girl. The girl says that he's her slave and will make weapons for her forever, and the young man replies that this is nonsense. He says who is he to take it away, and at the same time enters into battle. The guy says that if he can't win, he will die. A young man delivers a powerful blow, surrounded by purple energy. The girl warns that if he doesn't let her go, she will use force. He says that he can't afford to lose, because then he will lose everything. The guy delivers a powerful blow, destroying the wall, and announces that now it's Rod's turn. A young man grabs a girl by the hair and pulls her back sharply, simultaneously releasing a powerful blue energy blast from his hand. The girl expresses surprise. He delivers a series of rapid blows to the opponent, who tries to defend himself. The girl informs him that he won't be able to withstand such an attack. Louise Werft reveals that she is the second princess of the Dwarf Kingdom, and although she is not a hero, she has powers that cannot be taken away. Before the regression, the guy was among the top strongest, and was much stronger than she is now. The young man says that he could finish her off before she reached that level of power, but to do so, he would have to release all of her demonic energy, and he is now weaker than in his past life. He informs that he might be captured by soldiers, and considering that he used his power, they now know that he is the Demon King. The man struggles to hold back the attack, making a sound of pain as multiple explosions and impacts occur around him. The guy asks if the man took everything, and the man says that he is just sorting it out. The guy reports that this is a mana phantom with the ability to hide traces of mana, huge in size, created by Roger Friedrich. A young man says that if he's tired of life, his interlocutor has 1 minute. The interlocutor shouts that he'll do everything instantly. He shouts, demanding to know who gave permission. The guy says that if worst comes to worst, he'll leave him here. The man says he'll do it quickly. The young man says he has no idea how long he can last without true strength and demonic energy. It delivers a powerful blow, causing a bright flash and an explosion of energy. The girl says she doesn't know where the interlocutor came from, but she won't let him out of here alive, and she'll break Roger's legs so he won't run away again. The guy says that he sounds just like the Demon King and orders the surrender to the second princess of the dwarves, saying that he will take the blacksmith and the equipment with him. The image shows how mechanisms with gears and pipes work. Steam or smoke comes out of the pipes. The young man says he took it apart. The guy shouts at Roger that he came back only for this piece of iron and says that he won't be able to deal with him so easily. He says that now. The guy delivers a powerful kick to the girl, causing an explosion and a strong impact. The image shows a powerful explosion with flying debris and flashes of fire. The young man tells Roger that he is using a spatial pocket and orders him to get out of the way. The girl reports that this attack is useless against her. The girl notices something resembling an arrow appearing in the air and reacts to it with amazement. The three warriors ask the princess what's going on. The princess says they're slowing down and says they would have come running even after her death. The man reports that Roger has escaped and orders everyone to go into the tunnel immediately after him. The man jumps through the explosion. The girl says that he collapsed the passage, and was he really so reluctant to finish her weapon? The guy says he's interested. How interested, Roger? The girl says that she will personally find an interlocutor, even if she has to search the entire continent, and will make him regret this day. He says, Genus Zur. The image shows a scene with a broken chain and a broken wooden object. There are no text lines or speech bubbles. On the first floor of the tower, 4 people stand in front of a large spherical mechanism with many gears and glowing windows, from which a red flame emerges. The girl says it's huge, and the man in the apron asks the Demon King what it is and says he was just cleaning. The young man explains that it's a magical tool needed to stop the heroes. The man reports that the Mana Phantom installation is complete. He says it happened quickly and orders it to be activated. The man confirms he understands, Demon King. The guy says that after all the hassle with the delivery, he hopes it's worth it. The man replies that of course and says he'll activate it. The mechanism is making rotating sounds. The tower is reported to have recognized the Phantom of Mana. The guy says phew, and the girl says it's very bright. The young man reports that synchronizing with the tower requires 10,000 RT and asks if he wants to synchronize. He explains that he wasn't aware of such a function on the tower. He says yes and states that he is convinced of this himself. A system notification appears stating that the points have been used and their number has decreased from 11.8T2 to 11.82. It is reported that the Mana Phantom recognizes the Demon King boy Deus as its master, and the Mana Phantom's power source has been completely converted from mana to demonic energy. The young man speaks to Roger. Roger explains that it wasn't him and couldn't even imagine that merging with the tower was possible. He also explains that the power source has changed from mana to demonic energy, calling it the discovery of the century for the Demon King. The man asks if even the creator didn't know about this. The man tells the princess to try any spell, to which the princess asks if it really is any, and the man confirms that any spell she wants. The girl says she'll do whatever she wants. The man says he just removed the tower and exclaims, no. He tells her to stop this. He explains that usually a spell of this magnitude is used inside the tower. The guy reports that it should be noticeable even from the outside. The young man says that, and yet, he reports that he sees nothing inside, feels no presence, and wonders if it is the tower's power synchronized with the Mana Phantom. The guy says that if he controls the tower in this state, the young man expresses surprise and says that it is a tower. He reports that she has disappeared. The image contains no text or speech. It shows a hand surrounded by purple flames. The man says that this place is a fortress that he built to protect himself from enemies. The guy says he can hide the tower at will, but it eats up demonic energy points. The young man says that it will be difficult to use this right now, but in the future such a function will definitely be useful. The man says it's only a small part, Demon King, a very tiny part, and asks if he can disassemble and study the device and the tower. The man says he has never heard or seen anything like it in all of history and asks to be allowed to study this historic discovery. He reports that it looks like a demon, eager for a fight. The guy says that if the trap destroys the heroes on the first floor, he'll let them do whatever they want. The man declares that he'll definitely wipe out those sneaky heroes. The man tells the princess he has a proposition for her and asks her to meet the heroes who will go up to the 4th floor. The princess replies, "Woohoo!" The man screams as he is thrown back. The young man says he wants her to fight the heroes. The girl reveals that she's a princess and also a brilliant spirit summoner who doesn't want to return to the royal palace. He says that it might be unwise to give her such a role, since she is an innocent princess who doesn't know how the world works, so betraying her people could be. The girl ponders what to fight with, considering fire, water, and rocks. The boy says it doesn't matter. The young man says that they just need to confuse the heroes and simply show them that they are the enemy. He says that if everything goes well, he will give them what they want again. The girl says that she will look for the right moment, but she has a condition that she be introduced as the Demon King's subordinate and not as a princess. He says he agrees and tells her it's easy as pie. The girl is delighted and shouts, "Hooray!" The girl says she can fight by using her looks to seduce enemies, and that she's good at it. The guy remains silent and then says that she just needs to do what he says, after which the girl agrees. The young man says that there is nothing in this world that could stop him. The man explains that in that case, he will wait. He reports that the preparations are more or less complete at this point. They will reduce the number of heroes with the help of mass mana cannons on the first floor, and on the fourth they will finish them off, using the princess as bait. The guy reports that in the current situation he won't be able to destroy even half of the heroes, and there are more than 200 of them, and yet this is not enough. The young man asks if he really has to become stronger himself in the end. He explains that the hyacinth is an elemental spirit flower of ice and water, charged with demonic energy. The young man explains that spirit flowers tainted with demonic energy are especially effective against. He announces that they are moving forward and the girl is happy. The girl says there's nothing here either. The guy stands silently nearby. The young man says that this is already the third attempt, and maybe they were just lucky last time, and also calls the spirits useless. The girl says that's strange. He announces that they have arrived at the right place and explains that they can now begin. The girl listens silently. A man makes a loud scream. The guy says that the orcs have appeared again and that he is already tired of them. 2 footprints appear in the snow, one wrapped in bandages and the other covered in cloth. The wolf announces that he is Krutu, the chieftain of the Blue Frost tribe, and greets the Demon King, asking to accept their tribe into the ranks of his kin. The young man raises his hand with glowing red energy. A group of men ask to be accepted into the ranks of their tribe. He says that this is his power and explains that it is capable of destroying everything around him. The girl listens. The guy says he wants to understand if they want to accept him as one of their own. The man reveals that their ancestors are demons who betrayed the demon kingdom, and since they bear the original sin, he asks to be granted the honor of serving the Demon King. The young man says that's enough and orders him to save the sweet talk for later, explaining that ultimately the other man just wants to become stronger by becoming a relative of the Demon King, and adds that demonic energy suits him better than spiritual flowers. The man says that since they see right through everything, there's no point in delaying, and suggests they begin. The man asks a question. He opens a box containing 3 glowing flowers, red, purple, and blue. The guy says that now it is clear why they couldn't find them, and notes that the girl has a gifted tongue, is prepared, and has the ability to negotiate, which is unusual for a pole orc. The man explains that to survive in this harsh land, their tribe chose wisdom over strength as companions. The girl explains that the man then sought her out to become stronger because he lacked it. The man reports that he cannot afford to relax. The young man says he is not going to kill. He says that his interlocutor likes him and that this is very good. The guy says he will only accept Kruta. The young man says to wander through the snowy fields and grow his tribe for his sake. He tells him to wait for his orders and promises to reward them with something much greater than strength in the future. Krutu states that his tribe will live forever. System information explains that Krutu belongs to the pole orc race and is a relative of the Demon King. The guy says thank you and informs that they will be forever loyal to the Demon King. A crowd of warriors swears to be eternally faithful. The Urgus Mountains and the Young Man Tower are reportedly on alert. A legion of pole orcs is also said to be stationed outside the tower. On the first floor of the tower, Roger is among 60 mana cannons. The caption states that the action takes place on the 4th floor of the Hernan Hilderin Tower. A girl stands among flowers, surrounded by 4 flying creatures with angry faces. He reports that now all the pieces are in place. The guy says to come, heroes, and says that he will repay them in full for his humiliation in his past life. The image has no text or characters, only a winter forest with trees and snow. The young man reports that they have finally arrived in Granada. The man confirms the young man's words. He reports that the Urgus Mountains are finally in sight. Horton's Way is a preparatory point for the hero's journey. The guy says it's time to start. The young man thanks the lord of the fortress for the magnificent feast and says it is a great honor to be on the same page of history with him. The lord of the fortress reports that the young man flatters him and thanks him for his kind words. The man tells Hillen that he should give a speech, and Hillen says he's not ready, But the man explains that everyone is waiting for it and it will boost morale. He says that in that case, Hillen wants to say a few words. Hillen draws the guy's attention. The guy says there are many beautiful chandeliers in the castle, and the man explains that they were handmade. The guy clears his throat. The guy tells his comrades, heroes, nobles, knights, mages, mercenaries, merchants, and everyone else that their long-awaited campaign has finally reached the finish line. The guy reports that perhaps the Demon King is hiding in horror, seeing the march of heroes under the banner of justice, because he did not send a single monster to meet them. But they will not let down their guard, and the preparations are complete. They are completely ready. The young man announces that tomorrow will be the long-awaited day when they will make the impudent Demon King pay for his arrogance and for kidnapping Princess Hernan from the kingdom of Hilderin. The guy shouts that they are the true masters of this world, and it's time to remind them of this once again. The crowd shouts for justice. A man on the podium raises his hand with a glass and joins in the cry for justice. The crowd raises their glasses and says, "Eat and drink." A man announces that, as the Demon King predicted, the number of heroes hasn't increased, but it hasn't decreased either. He reports that Keeman's popularity allowed him to advance so far, he managed to enlist the support of the merchant guilds and pacified the mercenaries who were about to desert, forcing them to follow him to the end. The guy reports that the last time he saw the tower, it was completely empty, and wonders if it will collapse under such pressure, and also ponders whether he should attack the heroes from behind right now. The guy shouts that he doesn't understand what he was just thinking about and explains that if the expedition succeeds, he will finally gain freedom, which is in his interests. The guy says that if the expedition succeeds, he will finally gain freedom, which is also in his interests. The man tells the guy to come to his senses. The man says they need to get some fresh air and send a report that they've arrived at Horden and will begin their climb tomorrow after replenishing supplies. The guy says that's understandable, but explains that once the man leaves Horton, he shouldn't make any more contact, and he also needs to. The young man says that when climbing mountains, you need to be careful of the snow, not to lose your vigilance at night, and in the end, he says the last thing. He tells them to stay as far away from the tower gates as possible when they open. The man asks what he means and wonders what it was. The guy asks why the man is standing there all alone. The green-haired man replies that it's nothing special, he just went out for some fresh air, and asks if something's wrong. The guy offers to sip the fruit wine that elves love so much. The man thanks. The guy asks if they can really defeat the Demon King. The man says he seems to be worried about something. The guy laughs and asks if a man named Granada is nervous, to which Granada replies that he is a little nervous. The man says that he doesn't know himself. The young man says that. He says that people believe in him and follow him, but storming the Demon King's tower has always been a living hell, and never once has the assault gone smoothly. The green-haired guy says that they killed the Demon King of Lust by absorbing his power, and that compared to him, the new Demon King should be easy prey. The man says that no one knows how exactly they defeated the enemy and asks to tell him a heroic story. The guy is silent. The young man says that this was only possible thanks to his brave comrades, like Granada, who are always at the forefront and bravely fight monsters. He says that he will go forward and asks to cover his flank, and also says that if they join forces, victory will be theirs. The guy says, let it be so. The guy in the blue cloak announces that they will return now, and the lord of the fortress waited to hear about the adventures of the man in black. The guy says the wine he's holding is delicious and expensive. The man explains that he doesn't drink alcohol and doesn't understand why anyone would want to drink it. The young man says he needs to stand shoulder to shoulder with his brave comrades. He tells the elf Granada to take care of him this time. Morning. A group of warriors comes out with cries of the beginning of the action of the army of heroes, calls for standing firm and expresses glory to Granada, and also wishes long life to Wharton and Hillen Cargill. The name of the gorge in the Argus Mountains is announced above. Groups of people can be seen moving along a snowy trail in the gorge. He says there's hardly any snow, and the sky is clear. The man says he was worried they'd have a hard time getting through the mountains, but there's nothing special here. He explains that at this rate, they'll reach the tower without incident, and that it seems the goddess of victory is on their side. The guy laughs and says there should be disaster-level monsters everywhere, but it's as if they're not there, as if they'd gone into hibernation. The man explains that even monsters tremble with fear around Mr. Hillen. The guy says he's here. The man replies with a question. The guy asks what that substance is on his head, then screams that it's a ghoul. A man reports that there are ghouls on the rocks and asks why they are so big. The guy reports that they have finally shown up and orders all units to maintain battle formation. The guy tells them not to panic and to protect those nearby, explains that the gorge is very short and orders the knights to cover the mages and retreat. The boy tells Hillen there's a frost giant ahead. Hillen shouts for everyone to retreat. The skeleton states that this place is his domain and he will not allow them to pass. The man and the young man look at him. He tells Wharton to lead the men out of the gorge while he deals with the giant. Wharton, in response, is surprised that he's going to fight the giant alone. He says everything will be fine. A guy attacks an ice skeleton that makes sounds. The image contains no speech bubbles, and the characters do not speak or convey anything. It shows a close-up of a skull with horns and glowing red eyes. The guy says that the frost giant is no match for the lust demon king in strength. The scene depicts a skeletal monster with horns, launching a powerful attack. A man in a cloak, sword in hand, runs toward the monster, preparing for battle. The boy delivers a powerful blow to the creature, causing a massive explosion and destruction. The creature responds with a swift blow to the wall, causing a volley of rocks and dust. A young man attacks a skeletal monster with a sword surrounded by blue electricity. He rushes forward with a sword surrounded by blue energy. The guy says that now? The guy delivers a powerful blow with his sword, surrounded by bright blue energy. The young man shouts that it's time and orders everyone to run. The guy shouts to run and cover them, explains that the path is blocked and they need to hurry while there is a loophole, and orders them to keep running. The image shows a skull with glowing red eyes and a mouth from which smoke and fire are coming out, accompanied by growling sounds. The image shows the moment of a powerful explosion, at the center of which is a skeletal creature with blue limbs, and around it are many small figures falling down a narrow gorge. A young man and a man are breathing heavily after a fight. The man says he can't fight anymore and says it's time to retreat. The young man explains he doesn't want to give up and intends to continue fighting. The man says that if they stay, they will both die and insists on retreat. The guy says that dozens of ghouls and a frost giant higher than the cliffs are madness, and there is no place for people here. He explains that even in the previous tower, it wasn't so scary, and at the same time, the losses are surprisingly small, adding that if Hillen weren't here, everything would have been. The boy says he's rumored to have killed the demon king of lust and absorbed his power, and asks if his power is truly comparable to the demon king's. The man explains that since he's already defeated the demon king once, he should be even stronger. The boy agrees and says, the man gives the name Hillman. The guy says he can crush this demon king. Men watch a group of figures gathered on a snowy mountainside. The guy says he has no time to rest. The man asks about the orc cave. The guy explains that he senses demonic energy and that it's the demon king's minions. The demonic guy says he welcomes foolish heroes to Ergeste. The armored man says the enemies are light and he'll dispatch them in no time. The man in knightly armor asks for a moment's hesitation and points out the sound. The guy says to be careful of the snow. The guy thinks the warning meant something serious. The young man says that none of them. He says he won't make it to the tower. A boy and a girl are looking at a mountain surrounded by clouds and snow. A hum is heard. The guy says he should have saved himself from this. The woman says the demon king is a crazy bastard. The man says it's an avalanche. The guy shouts for everyone to run. A cry for help is heard by a man sitting on a throne, surrounded by glowing holograms. The guy says he welcomes the heroes. The young man says that this time he will hunt them. He reports that he warned Granada about 3 things. The guy says that first of all you need to be wary of snow. A group of people report that the orcs caused an avalanche that carried many people too far and they cannot count the people, after which someone expresses a curse. The guy says they'll set up camp here and look for the heroes who are covered in snow. The young man reports that, secondly, one should never let one's guard down at night. The man reports that snow giants and Gumi are prowling around here and that the Paul orcs are deliberately driving the monsters after them. The man says the Paul orcs are back and orders everyone to prepare for battle. The boy curses the demon king and expresses strong indignation, wishing for everything to be cursed. He reports that there's an avalanche during the day, hordes of monsters at night, and this cycle repeats endlessly. The man screams to run, hide, and lets out a scream. The guy says that they will inevitably collide pretty soon. 3 days after entering the Urgus Mountains, the detachment's numbers dwindled from 511 to 256. The young man says he doesn't understand why this happened. The group of heroes reportedly reached the summit of the highest mountain. The young man says there is no Demon King's tower here. At the top of the mountain, you can see traces of many feet left in the snow. The guy says that he should have built the tower where it would be easiest for the heroes to find it, and asks why it is not here. He reports that they have dispersed. The man says that they surrender, Sir Hillen. The guy reports that Sir Wharton, The guy reports that the hero's campaign has failed and apologizes, explaining that their lives are more important. The boy clenches his teeth. The text says that 6 days have passed since entering the Urgus Mountains. The man reports that it's the Demon King's tower and says the bastard hid it in the basin. Information about the squad's size appears, having been reduced from 256 to 52 people. The guy with the green cloak says they'll kill everyone, and the guy with red hair says there are still only weaklings on the first floor. The guy says that, thirdly, you need to stay away from the gate when it opens. 5 men look at a multitude of glowing blue spheres emanating from pipes or trunks. The guy says something strange is happening. The young man says that they will finish them off in one fell swoop. The man reports that this is from a dwarven mana cannon. The detachment size was reduced from 52 to 1. He says that even this is not enough. The guy says the goal is to kill Hill and Cargill. He says he doesn't understand what's going on here. The guy is screaming that something is wrong with this Demon King and everything is going wrong. The boy asks Granada if he's okay, and Granada tells him he barely dodged that attack. The man addresses the boy as Sir Hillen. The guy says thank God and suggests going up to the next floor. The man asks if it's just the two of us. The guy reveals that he is the hero who defeated the Demon King of Lust and absorbed his power, and explains that the new Demon King is no match for him. The boy says he's more than satisfied. The man replies that's fine and offers to go with him, turning to Sir Hillen. The man reports that the second floor of the tower is empty. On the third floor of the tower, the status is empty. A man and a boy are walking along the floor. The young man says this place should be crawling with monsters, but there's no one here, and something is clearly wrong with this tower. He also warns that anything could happen at any moment. The man explains that if the second and third floors are completely empty, then the tower is dead. The location is indicated, tower on, 4th floor. The guy says this is nonsense. The guy says the previous floors were empty, but the 4th floor is a whole forest, and asks if they're really in the Demon King's tower. The man replies that it doesn't look like that at all. The man thinks it's a curse. The young man says that they finally managed to get here. The man reacts to this with surprise. The girl reveals that she is one of the 4 heavenly kings who guard the Demon King. The girl says that she is a dark spirit caster and will be their opponent. A man in armor and a green-haired man look at a girl standing on a rock, surrounded by 4 small, serious-faced creatures. The green-haired man says he doesn't understand who she is. He says that he'll probably retreat quietly. The man replies that it's Princess Hernan and asks why she looks like that. The girl says she is not a princess, but a dark spirit caster. A woman reveals the power of darkness. A man looks at the woman who raises her hands and summons a whirlwind of water, fire, and stones. The guy says that this is a high-ranking spirit magic that only Princess Hernan possesses, and explains that it cannot be used if a person is controlled from the outside. The man talks about orc poles, avalanches, and night ambushes, and also tells of a tower hidden in a basin. The man reports that there are mana cannons at the entrance to the 1st floor, and the 2nd and 3rd floors are empty. The guy announces that now there's a crazy princess to boot. The man and the guy walk forward, oblivious to what's happening. The guy laughs and says he doesn't understand. The guy says he doesn't understand anything anymore and that the princess is attacking the hero who came to save her. Then he says he'll just destroy everything here. The young man says, "Do you think you can do it?" He delivers a powerful blow that causes an explosion and destruction around him. The guy says that he can now see the face of his interlocutor and calls him Hillen Cargill. The young man says the Demon King has finally appeared and can't believe he snuck up on him from behind like a coward. He says he needs more strength and names Granada. He says that there. A man walks forward through smoke and dust. A man with green hair and pointy ears is surrounded by electrical energy. A man with brown hair is also engulfed in electricity. The young man tells Granada to join forces. Granada says that now is not the time. The man is surprised to notice that his energy seems to be leaking out of his body. He tells Granada that as long as she is by his side, they will not have any problems, and reminds her that he already told her about this. The guy says that the forbidden treasure, Elf Devourer, converts the elf's infinite life force into mana. The young man says that the elf's only flaw is that after activation he dies quite quickly, and says that Granada doesn't mind because in the end it's for the common good. The woman says he is a scumbag and a hypocrite. He says that he likes how low and mean his interlocutor is. The guy says that if he just takes off the ring, the other guy will become a weakling again. The other guy asks what? The guy says that even the Demon King couldn't get the ring off his finger and challenges the idiot to try it. The young man states his name as Gordon. The man with red hair and armor speaks with a furious expression on his face. The guy says that if he can't win, he will die. The guy screams that his hand is cut off and reports that he didn't even feel the enemy's presence. Barrier says he is too noisy and ignorant for a human being. He delivers a powerful blow with his sword, causing a burst of energy and scattering leaves. The armored man parries the attack, swinging his sword with equal force and energy. The guy says he was defeated by a high-ranking demon, even with an artifact, and is surprised that it is a high-ranking demon. Bear J grabs the edge with his hand. He says he's not going anywhere. The man looks scared. The guy thinks he needs to dodge. Urjay says he can't afford to lose because it will mean the end for him. He says that if he loses, his soul will be destroyed and he will disappear forever. The text states that someone will not be able to do something. Barrier says he's the Demon King. He explains that his power surpasses anything man has ever seen, and that he will destroy anyone who stands in his way. Barrier then unleashes a powerful blast of dark energy. A man stands before him, sword in hand, preparing for battle. Finally, the man asks. He says he doesn't intend to kill, but just wants to play with his opponent. The man panics and sweats. Barrier says it's time to get what he deserves. The woman gives her name as Hillen Cardil. The image shows the moment of a powerful impact or collision with a bright purple light and a speed effect, accompanied by a sound effect.